Two heads, one tail, yang yin. New pin in dogwood. Again from the guy. It makes me some of my pendants. Watch me struggle. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Three heads, old young. 3 tails, old yin. Three heads, old yang. Our bottom trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as broken solid solid. I believe this is Dewy Lake or Marsh. No, Xun, wind or wood. Xun is both wind and living plants. Whatever penetrates, spreads, and grows, shaping itself to the space available or shaping that space to its own nature. She is responsive flexibility, sensitively improvising and adapting. Like the wind, she can always find a way through because she never creates any resistance, and so her influence is subtle and gradual, but far-reaching. In the family of trigrams, Xun is the eldest daughter, gentle and submissive. She belongs to the southeast and to late spring and early summer. And the top or outer trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, broken solid, which is Li, fire, and light. Li is fire and light, both inner and outer. As an inner light, she is consciousness at its most lucid and unclouded, holding things together in the mind, perceiving their differences and connections and discerning the underlying patterns of relationship. And as well as vision, Li is the light that makes things visible, the power to cast light on things, spreading clarity and the awareness of order. Li is the middle daughter, living in the south, the region of midsummer and the burning sun. Li, fire, and light above Xun, wind, or wood give us a primary hexagram of 50. And once our 4th, 5th, and 6th lines transform from their old versions, I don't know why my thing isn't focusing. There we go. I don't know. When they transform from their old versions to their young opposites, it'll then read broken, solid, broken, which is water. Kan water. Kan is deep water, flowing and formless. He is the complement of Li, dark where Li is bright, unconscious to her sharp lucidity, and represents a more fluid, intuitive, and emotional way of perceiving. This is danger, exposure, and solitude, and the need to respond with courageous self-reliance when confronted by the haunting unknown. Water is the middle sun, situated in the north, associated with midwinter and midnight. Kan water above Xun, wind, or wood give us a supporting hexagram of 48. we will get the titles to our hexagrams from Liu I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Hexagram 50, our primary hexagram, Liu I-ming calls... Oops. At some point I'm going to have to get a new version of this, maybe hardback. The Cauldron. That's right. You know when you write off the edge and you can't write anymore? I did that. Okay. And I'm also checking if I spelled it correctly. 50, the Cauldron, yes. Ha. And yeah, so the Cauldron says, refining illumination. There's so much incense you can hardly see it. And then our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, is 48, the Well. Oh my God. Accumulation of effort to cultivate character, nurturance of others. Who was it? It was Carl Jung. When Carl Jung asked the I Ching, I'm going to read that to you, asked the I Ching if he should help introduce it to the English-speaking world through putting his preface to Wilhelm's translation of the I Ching into English. He asked it if he should introduce it to the English-speaking world, and it answered with primary hexagram of the Well. And with the Well, it says, accumulation of effort to cultivate character, nurturance of others. I think I said that. All right. To start out, we will read from Kibi's I Ching Tarot. With our primary and supporting hexagrams. 50, the Cauldron. First time I've gotten it, I think, since I've used these cards. You see it all right? Oh, it's powerful. Primary hexagram 50, the Cauldron. Kibi says, cooperation, progress, love triangle, cauldron. Beneath what appears at first glance to be conspicuous and glittering lies the harmony of three virtues, is a three-legged cooking pot with ears for ceremonial use. And supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, the Well. My favorite tarot deck is Handel Tarot, H-A-I-N-D-L, and his art is similar to these in a way. I love it. You should check out that deck if you haven't. The Well, hexagram 48, Kibi says about it. Give, save, like water from a well that is always there. It is always there and tries to keep the water quality clean. Water from a well that anyone can drink without restriction. It's better not to cover the well. At the top line, Yao. It looks like it's got like eyeballs on the bottom. All right. And next from this deck, which I highly recommend you do not purchase, because I had to fix several of them, the I Ching Shadow Integration Oracle, although what it says about the different hexagrams is incredible. So it was worth it for me. I'm not sure it'd be for anyone else. Okay. Get your shit together. That's the booklet. All right, 50. The Cauldron. Oh, God damn. The Cauldron signifies transformation, nourishment, and refinement of ideas or resources through collective effort. It represents the process of spiritual alchemy, bringing together diverse elements for a shared purpose, sustenance through transformation. Boop-a-doo. And then it says, engage in the process of refining your intentions and integrating diverse aspects of your being. Explore any resistance to deep internal change or fear of combining different parts of yourself. The cauldron of your being holds the potential for profound personal alchemy. Damn. And 48, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of which I can't do anything with this. I forgot to delete my last reading off there, so hopefully we don't run out of storage. An underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 48, the well. The well signifies a constant, inexhaustible source of nourishment and wisdom that benefits all who draw from it. It represents foundational support, collective resources, and the importance of access to life-giving sustenance. Cultivation ensures enduring vitality. Connect with your inner wellspring of wisdom and resources, ensuring it remains accessible and pure. Address any shadow of depletion or hoarding by sharing your gifts and drawing from universal sustenance. Your inner source is always available if you tend to it. Man, those are good. Gee Willikers. Gee Willikers, Batman. All right. I don't think Robin ever said that. Next, we will get Hilary Barrett's perspective from I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. I highly recommend picking up a copy for if you're starting out in reading I Ching. Primary hexagram. When we approach the I Ching to consult the Oracle, the question we bring to it will always have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time. I use the Ganesh incense, and it's like it burns my eyes a little bit more than the others. It's a different brand. Hexagram 50, the vessel. Oops. Key questions. What is the vessel for transformation? What are you beginning? What will you cook? Oracle, the vessel, creating success from the source, good fortune. This marks a new beginning. The sacred vessel is cast and used in the great ceremonies that inaugurate a new dynasty. The spirits are invited to share in the meal it contains, renewing their connection with the people. The vessel provides stable, robust foundations for a new life, and also the crucible where you can expect to be transformed and remade. The vessel contains and transforms. Just as wood becomes fire, or smelted ore becomes a great bronze vessel, or raw ingredients become fragrant food, so the experiences of life can be blended and transmuted into a meaningful whole. Image. Above wood there is fire, the vessel. A noble one sets the situation straight and consolidates her destiny. Fire arises from wood, and clarity arises from subtle inward receptivity. This is the cooking place, the place for transmutation, and so the noble one works to bring it into harmony. She straightens out her situation, her relationships especially, and where she stands overall. This provides a good, stable basis for transformative work, a harmonious context where destiny can be realized. Inside a well-made vessel, your sense of who you are and what you are here to do crystallizes and becomes clearly defined. Sequence. The vessel follows from Hexagram 49, radical change. For radically changing things, nothing equals the vessel. It continues what radical change began, providing a secure space for transformation. Ain't that the goddamn truth? And then our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, is hexagram 48, the well. Key questions. What is the ever-present resource you draw from? What can you do to realize its potential here? Oracle, the well. Moving the city, not moving the well. Without loss, without gain. They come and go. The well wells. Almost drawn the water, but the rope does not quite reach the water. Or breaking one's clay jug. Pitfall. The people of ancient China would sometimes move a whole city to move a more favorable site, and they could take everything with them except the well. You can transplant your center and change everything about your life except for the source you draw on to sustain it all. You cannot own this source, nor carry it with you. Whenever you move, you will need first of all to dig a new well to reach it. The well itself is utterly dependable. Nothing anyone can do will raise or lower the water level. People and experiences come and go. Time passes. The well is always the well and does not change. You need never doubt that you have these resources or that they are enough. The real question is whether you have the means to reach into such depths and a steady hand to bring the water up into the real world without loss. To fail would be disastrous. The potential in the situation is undeniable, but it may still be a long way from realization. Image. Above the wood is the stream, the well. A noble one toils with the people, encouraging them to help one another. If you could lean over an old Chinese well and look down through the water, you would see a frame of logs at the bottom used to retain the silty soil as it was dug. The noble one is as committed and involved in the well as the frame itself. Inwardly as responsive as roots, outwardly pouring himself into the work like a flowing stream. The well is a vital shared resource. Everyone must cooperate to build and maintain it. Sequence. The well follows from hexagram 47, confined. Confined in reaching upward naturally means turning inward, and so the well follows. When you cannot reach upward and outward, you turn instead towards an inner source. The clear, life-giving water of the well is only to be found at the bottom of a very deep, dark pit. And next we will get our changing lines, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Changing line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. And changing line 6, beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. So for hexagram 50, changing line 4 is it's 49. The vessel's legs break off, the prince's stew is upset, dignity soiled, pitfall. Putting this vessel to use reveals its weakness. Just when its stability is most needed, it collapses. The vessel needs to be reinforced with commitment and devotion, upheld by strong, clear communication. These provide the strength to sustain a great responsibility. To have the vessel's supports fail at the key moment is deeply humiliating, and more than that, it is a disastrous omen for the future. And changing line 5. The vessel with gold ears and bronze handle. Constancy bears fruit. The ears are loops on the rim of the vessel. The handle is a carrying rod inserted through them. Together they ensure the vessel can be moved and used. Make your ears golden, purify and enrich your listening so that you become receptive to a more harmonious way of living. Precisely because it is available to be moved, the new order becomes stable and lasting. It can contain all the mysteries of what is to come and will not be toppled by the unexpected. Then changing line 6. The vessel has a jade handle, great good fortune, nothing that does not bear fruit. Jade is the most precious material of all, and one that requires many hours and days of painstaking effort. This is jade. To shape and polish. Using it to craft the handle is a sign that the vessel is greatly honored for its capacity to be moved, from place to place and down through the ages. A handle of jade will always be strong and softly lustrous. It will never tarnish. What you have here is immensely precious, not necessarily because of present circumstances, but because of the lasting value you can carry forward. Next, we will look at Hilary Barrett, Benabel Wynn's I Ching The Oracle, which I also highly recommend. A practical guide to the Book of Changes, an updated translation annotated with cultural and historical references, restoring the I Ching to its shamanic origins. Pick yourself up a copy. Hexagram 50, our primary hexagram, Ding, or the Cauldron. It's interesting, I put my red bookmark there. The Oracle. You are in the developmental phase. Nourish the inner temple. At issue is the alchemy for nurturing talent and virtue so that there may be progress, innovation, and success. That alchemy, however, is reserved exclusively for the worthy. What is needed right now for you to prevail in your endeavor is a personal catharsis. Greater nourishment is needed. Bring forth offerings of sustenance to both the inner temple and to the outer temple of the gods. Be sure to cleanse and purge the cauldron thoroughly of its grime before you cook with it. Good fortune and favors bestowed upon the one who first purifies, then alchemizes. I just dunked in the river, so I'm ritually pure, albeit one less pair of boxers. I accidentally left them down by the river. Doing this commando. Supreme good fortune and favors from heaven. Om Namah Shivaya. You embark upon a direct and straight path to higher rank. Go forth, focused and steady, in alignment with the divine command, and find your destiny. In Wu Jing alchemical principles, wood creates and empowers fire. Fire corresponds with the alchemical process of synthesis, integration, assimilation, and illumination. Kindling from the challenges you've overcome, now light the fire, empowering you to shine. The sage will inspire the people to serve in accordance with their capacity, as ordained by fate. Or so goes the Confucian commentary appended to Hexagram 50. Moreover, the sage must now complete the mission. The sage's mission, heaven's will, is the sage's will. Bring peace and prosperity to the people is the sage's destiny. To unceasingly cultivate knowledge and wisdom is in the sage's nature. This is the developmental phase. The fire is burning upon the gathered wood, and the cauldron is ready. Offerings of sustenance are given to both the inner temple for personal nourishment and the outer temple of the gods to carry forth the will of the gods. Nurture your talent and virtue to initiate great progress, innovation, and success. Cultural significance of the cauldron. The cauldron is an alchemical vessel of great cultural and spiritual significance. The myths begin with the Yellow Emperor, 2697 to 2597 BC, forging 3 precious tripod cauldrons representing heaven, earth, and humanity, forged from copper. Yu the Great casts 9 tripod copper cauldrons. Weird thing about copper is I just saw in Witch Inside's reading today a yoni. She pointed out on one of the cards a yoni spiral, and I didn't know what that was, but I had just seen it on Shiva Lingam pendant that I purchased, and the necklace was in copper, and the yoni spiral was in copper as well. I'll show it to you when I get it. But that's interesting. And I just dunked in the river to do a crossing of the Great River. I'll put that in the description box below. But that was dedicated to Shiva. The myths begin with the Yellow Emperor forging 3 precious tripod cauldrons representing heaven, earth, and humanity forged from copper. Yu the Great casts 9 tripod copper cauldrons that the Zhai dynasty 2100 to 1600 BC passes on to the Shang, and when the Zhao defeat the Shang, the 9 cauldrons pass on to the Zhao. The 9 cauldrons represented the mandate of heaven and were an insignia of imperial authority. By the time of the Qin, 221 to 206 BC, the 9 cauldrons were lost. According to legend, they were washed away and consumed by a river during a flood. Cauldrons were used to cook the food that would be given as offerings to ancestral spirits. Incense burners for shrines and altars are commonly in the shape of a cauldron. Hexagrams 49 and 50, whereas the theme of Hexagram 49 was descent and a reform to the revolution of a systematic social order, Hexagram 50 expresses the events after the regime change. Hexagram 50 is restoration and reconstruction of what the descent had destroyed. This is a developmental phase and the building of new foundations. Establishing a new order after dismantling an old one is much harder than the dismantling process of revolution itself. Thus, after revolution, the hard part begins, having to design and build a new structure that will be better than what pre-existed. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 48 is Jing, or Fountainhead. The Oracle. Society may change, but people's primitive needs never do. Nourish the people's primitive needs. Failing to reach the depths of people's inner essentials will cause your undertaking to fall short. To succeed, reach deep into the people's hearts and deeper into the tempest. The situation at hand is much deeper, much more meaningful than you initially perceived it to be. Tensions arise from an ideological struggle. Adversity and troubles take caution. Keep the name of the divine close by and at the ready, and invoke heaven in your times of need. Dispensing nourishment, The wood draws up the water through the well, like the stems of plants draw up water to the blossoms. The village has changed, its well has not. Coming and going, the well is in frequent use. Although politics can change society, the people's primitive needs will always remain the same. No matter how people develop or society advances, there will always be a return to the fountainhead. Well water near depletion. A rope that is too short and a cracked water jug bring misfortune. A rope that is too short symbolizes efforts that fall short of reaching the fountainhead or source of all life. Failing to reach the depths of the fountainhead means failing to truly understand life. A cracked water jug symbolizes human negligence, not instilling enough care into the study of philosophy and divinity. For your endeavor to succeed, you must extend a rope long enough to reach the fountainhead. You must understand the source of the situation at hand. The sage motivates the people to work and appeals to them to help one another. The primary message of this hexagram is that of rejuvenation and plenitude for the masses, nourishment for the people. Your endeavor is one that must be expanded to include nourishment for a greater good. At this time, you are still being short-sighted. The situation at hand is much deeper, much more meaningful than you initially perceived it to be. Adversity and troubles. Take caution. And then our changing lines. Next, put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Changing line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. And changing line 6, beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. So changing line 4 of hexagram 50, our primary hexagram, Cauldron. Fourth line, a broken cauldron, tripod capsized, the rice porridge spilling. The Duke's robes have been stained, foreboding adversity. A promising event has turned out quite badly. You failed at discharging your duties competently because of inadequacies that you could have avoided had you been more careful with who you relied on. At this time, halt any advance and instead of seeking progress, seek correction. Rectify all wrongs before proceeding. In the fourth line of the hexagram 50, narrative arc, the feet on the cauldron have broken off, so the cauldron capsizes. Since it contained a carefully prepared meal, the triple yang of lines 2, 3, and 4, resembling the full belly of a cauldron, the contents spill everywhere and the Duke's robes are stained. The Duke's robes getting stained represents one feeling embarrassed or humiliated by the incident. One's image and appearance have been stained. When the fourth line comes up in a reading, pay attention to who you trust as a member of your inner circle, or be more mindful of how you select employees. The reference to a cauldron's broken legs is also symbolic of censure or failing to overcome obstacles and thus receiving backlash. Changing line 5. Yellow handles on the cauldron, gold chains attached, auspicious omen. The fifth line represents a golden age. The times ahead are those of peace and stability. There are thriving arts and culture and a flourishing civilization. This can be credited to a wise and beneficent ruler occupying this fifth line. The yellow color calls to mind the yellow emperor, the yellow dragon, and the yellow river valley civilizations. Yellow corresponds with earth in the Wu Jing cycle, where the qi of yin and yang are balanced and symbolic of the center. Thus, as an omen, seeing yellow here is an affirmation that you are in the right and that you have heaven's blessing. Yellow is also the color of neutrality. So to hold on to heaven's blessing, cultivate neutrality and objectivity. Never be prejudiced toward any one side. Have the beneficence and virtue to feel compassion for all. The fifth line portends success in work or career matters, professional advancements, glory, and promotions, and it affirms one whose competency inspires trust from others. The final message of the fifth line is to remain humble. Every figure of authority will answer to a higher power of authority. As applicable, when the fifth line comes up and you have to make a judgment, follow past precedent. The narrative here is of a humble king who has the wisdom to consider how past great kings ruled and to emulate their ways. Thus, as applied here, rather than diverging from precedent, honor it. Xuan, referenced in both the fifth and sixth lines, has been translated as chains, though it can also be rings or a rod. The reference is to the device used for carrying cauldrons. In both instances, that the ideogram is present means the cauldron is being prepared for transport. And changing line 6. Jade chains on the cauldron, great fortune and favors, no losses sustained. Jade represents spiritual cultivation. You are virtuous, sincere, wise, and one that the leader trusts, though you yourself are not the head. If the fifth line with the references to yellow and gold were about the sovereign or career success, the sixth line is more internal. This is about spiritual advancement. Jade was believed to improve health, bring longevity, and protect souls from evil. Taoist alchemists associated jade with immortality, an auspicious omen. The inner self has reached a highly developed stage. The endeavor ends well for you. Next, why don't we get it from Gnostic Book of Changes first, then we'll go to the Taoist I Ching by I-ming. The Gnostic Book of Changes is from James de Corn, who is a practitioner of the Tao himself. I've left links to it in the description box below. If you want to follow along or use the I Ching on your own time, you could use this without even having to buy a book. And anyway, he quotes people like Carl Jung and places like the Kabbalah. Hexagram 50, the sacrificial vessel. Other titles might be the cauldron, the vessel, rejuvenation, cosmic order, the alchemical vessel. A quote from D.F. Hook, a complete transformation of a person or circumstance. Judgment, leg. The sacrificial vessel means great progress and success. Wilhelm/Baines, the cauldron, supreme good fortune, success. Ritzema/Karcher, the vessel, spring significant, growing. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of the imaginative capacity of a sacred vessel. It emphasizes that securing and imaginatively transforming the material at hand is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you are told to hold and transform things in the vessel. The image, leg, wood under a fire, the image of a sacrificial vessel. The superior man maintains his correctness in every situation to secure the appointment of heaven. Wilhelm/Baines, fire over wood, the image of the cauldron. Thus, the superior man consolidates his fate by making his position correct. Blofeld, this hexagram symbolizes fire upon wood. The superior man, taking his stance as righteousness requires, adheres firmly to heaven's decrees. Lu, fire above wood symbolizes the cauldron. The superior man makes his destiny firm with a correct position. Ritzema/Karcher, above wood possessing fire, the vessel. A chunsu or chief son or superior person uses correcting the situation to solidify fate. Cleary 1, There is fire on top of wood, a cauldron. Thus do superior peoples stabilize life in the proper position. Cleary 2, fire over wood, the cauldron. Leaders stabilize their mandate by correcting their position. Wu, there is fire on wood, this is the cauldron. Thus the Chun-Si, or chief son or superior person, rectifies his position and consecrates the mandate. Commentary. Confucius/Leg, the image of the sacrificial vessel shows us wood entering a fire, which suggests the idea of cooking. The sages cooked their sacrifices to God and nourished their able ministers with feasts. We have the trigrams of flexible obedience and quick intelligence, with the magnetic line advanced to the ruler's place and responded to by her dynamic correlate below. All these things give the auspice of successful progress. Leg. The written Chinese character for sacrificial vessel represents a cauldron with 3 feet and 2 ears, used for cooking and preparing food for both the table and the altar. The hexagram pictures this vessel. The divided first line represents the feet. The 3 undivided lines above represent the body. The divided fifth line shows the ears, or carrying rings, and the top line is the handle by which the container is carried or suspended from a hook. The lesson of the hexagram is that the nourishing of men of talent and virtue intimates great progress and success. The Confucianist editors point out that the distinction between hexagram number 48, the well, and this one is the difference between the nourishment of the people in general and the specific nourishment of worthy men. And we got the well as our support. The well as our supporting hexagram. They add that the reality of sacrifice is nourishing in this regard, which would indicate that there's nourishment for both the worthy and regular people in general in this situation. Notes and paraphrases judgment. You are the sacrificial vessel. The superior man holds to the principles of the work to attain transcendence. The usual name for this hexagram is the cauldron, specifically a type of food-containing vessel which was used in ancient China for religious sacrifices. I prefer Blofeld's title of the sacrificial vessel as more evocative of the ideas presented in the figure. When the 49th hexagram of transformation is turned upside down, it becomes the 50th hexagram of the sacrificial vessel, thus giving us some valuable insights into the nuances of meaning in each of the figures. Thus, the combined ideas of transformation and a cauldron used for sacrifices remind us of the alchemical vessel or retort, which cooked its contents and transformed them into a higher state of matter, turned lead into gold in the popular conception. Of course, the true esoteric purpose of the alchemist was psychological, not physical. A quote from M.E. Harding in Psychic Energy. The vessel of the alchemists, like the circle of the psyche and the mandala, must be closed if the transformation process is to proceed satisfactorily. This is my retort, or alchemical vessel. I'm a plumber and I made it out of brass fittings. Just gotta be closed. What did I leave off? What, securely built. Thus it is said that okay. Yeah. For us, this is a symbol representing a similar process taking place within the psyche. Thus it is said that a wall must be securely built about the psyche before the reconciliation of the opposites can take place within it, and before the new center of the individual can be created. For if anything is lost, the process is nullified and the final product will be incomplete, imperfect. So long, for instance, as the individual continues to project his deficiencies or his values upon circumstances or upon another, he does not have an impervious vessel. Thus, the contents essentially involved in the transformation are seen to be the irrational, instinctual, not yet human factors of the psyche, the non-ego, the human and civilized factors, Those subject to the will make up the wall of the vessel. Now, an ancient Chinese cauldron used to contain food intended for religious sacrifices is not the same thing as a hermetically sealed alchemical retort made to withstand extreme pressures, but symbolically they are identical images. The ego sacrifices its autonomy for the good of the work in the same way that the alchemist devotes his entire life to the transformation of base metal into gold, i.e., to transform his psyche by following the extreme discipline of the work. Thomas Cleary's Taoist I Ching explicitly tells us that this is the meaning intended here. Quote from I-ming, "The work of refinement is the means by which to sublimate earthly energy and stabilize celestial energy, causing the raw to ripen and the old to be renewed, whereby it is possible to illumine the mind and to solidify life. Therefore, the cauldron is basically good and it has a developmental path. The basis is the potential of everlasting life of goodness. The cooking of the great medicine in the cauldron is the firing of this living potential to make it incorruptible and permanent. But in this path there is process and procedure. Even the slightest deviation and the gold elixir will not form. Therefore, people must first thoroughly investigate the true principle." Suggestions for meditation. In his commentary, Legge mentions that the Chinese see an analogy between this figure and hexagram number 48, the well, which is our supporting hexagram. Compare the two figures, noting the similarities between the first, third, fifth, and sixth lines. The component trigrams of sacrificial vessel appear in reverse sequence in hexagram number 37, family. What other similarities are there in the two figures? How is the idea of a family analogous to the idea of a sacrificial vessel? All right. And hexagram 48, our supporting hexagram, puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 48, the well. Other titles might be welling, potentialities fulfilled, the source, the deep psyche, and a quote from D.F. Hook, a resurrection or transformation, generations coming and going, and the continuance of life and development. Judgment, Legge. Although a town site may be altered, the well remains the same. Its water level neither disappears nor receives any great increase, and the people can draw from it freely. Misfortune ensues if the rope breaks or the bucket is broken before it reaches the water. Wilhelm/Baines, The Well. The town may be changed, but the well cannot be changed. It neither decreases nor increases. They come and go and draw from the well. If one gets down almost to the water and the rope does not go all the way, or the jug breaks, it brings misfortune. Blofeld, The Well. A well. A city may be moved, but not a well. The building of a city depends upon ourselves, but wells cannot be moved to places where nature supplies no water. The implication is that our activities are limited by natural conditions. A well suffers from no decrease and no increase, but often when the people come to draw water there, the rope is too short or the pitcher gets broken before reaching the water. Misfortune. What we desire is there for the taking, but we may not succeed in getting it. Lu, The Well. The city may be moved, but not the well. It neither overflows nor runs dry. People come and go, drawing from the well. The rope nearly reaches the water, but not quite. The jug breaks, misfortune. Ritzema/Karcher, The Well. Amending the capital, not amending the well. Without losing, without acquiring, going, coming, welling, muddy culmination, truly not yet the well rope well, ruining one's pitcher pitfall. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of the life, water, coming from the depths that everyone may draw on. It emphasizes that maintaining access to this central source is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you were told to go to the well. Slothnacy, The Well. Changing the city, but not changing the well. There is no loss, there is no gain. Going and coming so orderly, when the drying up arrives, one also has not yet drawn from the well. Burdening its formed earthenware jug, inauspicious. Cleary 1, the well, changing the village, not changing the well, no loss, no gain. Those who come and go use the well as a well. If the rope does not reach all the way into the well, or if the bucket breaks, that is unfortunate. Cleary 2, people come and go, but the well remains a well. Lowering the bucket to the water, if you overturn the bucket before drawing it up from the well, this is unlucky. Woo. The well indicates the planning of a district may be changed, but the location of the well may not. The water level of a well will neither increase nor decrease from use. There are wells here and there. When one is drawing water from a well, if he tangles the rope and damages the bucket just before it clears the well, it will be foreboding. The image, leg. The image of water over wood forms the well. The superior man comforts the people and stimulates their mutual cooperation. Wilhelm/Baines. Water over wood, the image of the well. Thus, the superior man encourages the people at their work and exhorts them to help one another. Blofeld. This hexagram symbolizes water over wood. The superior man encourages the people with advice and assistance. Lu. Water on wood symbolizes the well. The superior man inspires people to work diligently and advises them to help each other. Ritsuma/Karcher. Above wood possessing stream, the well, a chunsu or chief son or superior person, uses toiling commoners to encourage mutualizing. Cleary 1, there is water above wood, a well. Those two superior people comfort the people and encourage reciprocity. Woo. I have to read that again. A chunsu uses toiling commoners to encourage mutualizing. Just incredible. There is water above wood. This is the well. Thus, the chunsi, or chief son or superior person, encourages people to work for the good of the public and to help one another for a better life. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. Wood penetrates the water and raises it, giving the image of the well, which gives nourishment yet is not exhausted. The dynamic central lines in the second and fifth places indicate that the town site may change, but the well does not. If the rope does not reach the water, the well does not serve its purpose. A broken bucket brings about evil. Leg. The upper trigram represents water and the lower symbolizes wood, giving the image of a wooden bucket in the water of a well. What is said on this hexagram might be styled, lessons to be learned from a well for the proper government of a country. A well is to its users what a government is to its subjects, and if rulers would only apply the ancient precepts of government to the present circumstances, they and their people would benefit greatly. In the judgment, we see the well remaining substantially the same through many changes of society, a dependable source of refreshment to its users. As the fashion of the well remains changeless, so do the principles of human nature and good government. The value of the well depends upon the water being drawn up and used, and so must the principles of good government be implemented. Anthony, this hexagram usually indicates that we have a hidden doubt or fear. We may secretly disbelieve our path. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Amid the changes of life, the only constant is the psyche itself. To be alive is to draw upon its energy. The ego's challenge lies in the correct comprehension of its images. The superior man promotes the harmonious interplay of his thoughts and feelings, works on the integration of his complexes. A well is a universal symbol of a source of inner truth and is often associated with a place that is sacred to the gods. Genesis 26:25, there he built an altar and invoked the name of Yahweh. There he pitched his tent, and there Isaac's servants sank a well. Servants. And Cardinal Nicholas of Cusa. From the first well, which is of animal nature and deep, the father drinks, together with his children and cattle. From the second, which is yet deeper and on the very margin of nature, there drink only the children of men, namely those whose reason has awakened and whom we call philosophers. From the third, the deepest of all, drink the sons of the All-Highest, whom we call gods and true theologians. Psychologically interpreted, a well symbolizes the continuously flowing unconscious psyche, the fountain of all awareness. In this hexagram, each line represents a level within the well. by extension suggesting a hierarchy of value in the unconscious. It is important to remember that not all of our inner images, intuitions, or impulses come from the self. Note that lines 1 through 4 all show the water of the well not being utilized for one reason or another. Only in lines 3, 5, and 6 is it actually available for use. A quote from Roberto Asciugoli in Psychosynthesis: in some sensitive individuals, there is an awakening of parapsychological perceptions. They have visions, which they believe to be of exalted beings. They may hear voices or begin to write automatically, accepting the messages at their face value and obeying them unreservedly. The quality of such messages is very varied. Sometimes they contain fine teachings, but they should always be examined with much discrimination and sound judgment, and without being influenced by their uncommon origin or by any claim by their alleged transmitter. No validity should be attributed to messages containing definite orders and commanding blind obedience, and to those tending to exalt the personality of the recipient. The ego's point of view in relation to the well is from the outside looking in. The insights emerge from beneath the surface of awareness and can be held in the light of consciousness only if one's comprehension is able to contain them. If the bucket breaks, our understanding is unequal to our observation and the insights are lost. One might plausibly find the image for a cancer cure within one's psyche, but without a conscious frame of reference to acknowledge it, it would be unrecognized and lost. Those who closely monitor their dreams know that there is an endless outpouring of strange images within the psyche, which might be of inestimable value if only we knew what they referred to. Wilhelm emphasizes the idea of nourishing the people, which psychologically means that the role of the ego is to facilitate the cooperation of intrapsychic forces. A quote from Roberto Asciugoli, that's how you say that, Psychosynthesis: the solution lies rather along the lines of a harmonious integration of all drives into the total personality. First through the proper subordination and coordination, and then through the transformation and sublimation of the excessive or unused quota of energy. Next, we will look at the changing lines 4, 5, and 6, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. And line 6, beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. So changing line 4 in our primary hexagram, the sacrificial vessel 50, says, leg. The fourth line dynamic shows the sacrificial vessel with its feet broken and its contents designed for the ruler's use, overturned and spilled. Its subject will be made to blush for shame. There will be evil. Wilhelm/Baines: the legs of the cauldron are broken, the prince's meal is spilled, and his person soiled. Misfortune. Blofeld: the legs of the ting snap, the prince's food is overturned, and his person soiled. Misfortune. Through gross carelessness, an opportunity to advance our interests is not only lost, but transformed into an occasion of trouble. Lu: the legs of the cauldron are split, the duke's meal is spilled, and his face turns red. Misfortune. Slofnacy: the cauldron's broken leg overturns the duke's stew. His punishment is execution in chamber. Inauspicious. Clary 1: the cauldron's legs are broken, spilling the food received for service. The physical being is enriched, but there is misfortune. Clary 2: the cauldron breaks its legs, spilling your food. Your face drips. This is unfortunate. Woo: the cauldron's legs are broken, the duke's feast is spilled over, resulting in capital punishment. Foreboding. Commentary. Confucius/Leg: how can he be trusted? Wilhelm/Baines: how can one still trust him? Blofeld, the prince's meal is overturned. How is it possible to continue enjoying his confidence? Ritzema/Karcher, wherefore trustworthy thus indeed? Clary 2, now that you have spilled your food, what happened to your confidence? Wu, how can there be trust? The master said, virtue small and office high, wisdom small and plans great, strength small and burden heavy. Where such conditions exist, it is seldom that they do not end in evil. As it is said in the I Ching, the tripod's feet are overthrown and the ruler's food is overturned. The body of him who is thus indicated is wet with shame. There will be evil. Leg. Line 4 is the minister charged with difficult duties. Although dynamic, he is in a magnetic position with a magnetic correlate in line 1. Weak in himself and without an able helper, he has failed to do his proper work and cannot be trusted again. Notes and paraphrases. Sue. The man fails to discharge his responsibilities because of personal inadequacies. Great plans supported by limited knowledge, heavy loads by meager strength, high office by weak character. These result in shame and disaster. Wing. You do not have the capability to achieve the goals you have in mind. You have not been realistic about your position. You are lacking in either energy, commitment, information, or assistance. Going forth with your plans will invite disaster. Editor. The image suggests misfortune brought about by inexperience, incompetence, lack of capacity, divided loyalties, willful disobedience, or plain ignorance. In my experience, the line does not necessarily always imply blame. Sometimes, with the best will in the world, one just isn't capable of coping with superior forces in a situation. If this is the only changing line, the new hexagram becomes 18, work on what has been spoiled, implying that you should clean up the mess you've just made. What's crazy about that is my year ahead spread, which I just posted on my community page, the very center card that the entire year revolved around was Hexagram 18, work on what has been spoiled. A quote from Epictetus, if you have assumed a character above your strength, you have both acted in this matter in an unbecoming way, and you have neglected that which you might have fulfilled. James de Cornbrake's changing line 4 down into 1, succinct definition A failure is portended. Only you can determine if blame is involved. And changing line 5. Leg, the 5th line magnetic shows the cauldron with yellow ears and rings of metal in them. There will be advantage in being firm and correct. Wilhelm/Baines, the cauldron has yellow handles, golden carrying rings, perseverance furthers. Blofeld, the ting has yellow handles with golden rings attached. Righteous persistence brings reward. The faults described in the last 2 notes have now been put right. The position is even better than before they were committed. Lu, the cauldron has yellow handles and golden carrying rings. Continuing brings advantage, a time of benefit. Ritzema/Karcher, the vessel, yellow ears, metallic rings, harvesting trial. Slofnacy, the cauldron's yellow ears and metal bar, beneficial to determine. Clary 1, the cauldron has yellow hooks with a gold handle. It is beneficial to be single-minded. Clary 2, it is beneficial to be correct. Wu, the cauldron's ears are yellow and its carrying pole is covered with gold. It is advantageous to be persevering. Commentary. Confucius/Leg, the central position of the line is taken as a proof of the solid virtue of its subject. Wilhelm/Baines, the yellow handles of the cauldron are central in order to receive what is real. Blofeld, the central position of this line in the upper trigram implies solid worth. Ritzema/Karcher, centering uses activating substance indeed. Clary 2, the knobs of the cauldron are filled through the center. Wu, what it holds is substantial. Leg, line 5 says the daily lecture praises the ruler as condescending to the worthy with his humble virtue. Yellow has occurred repeatedly as a correct color, and here the yellow ears and strong rings of metal are intended to intensify our appreciation of the occupant of line 5. As the line is magnetic, A caution is added about being firm and correct. Notes and paraphrases. Su. The man is modest and approachable. He thereby attracts associates who can provide able help and advice. Wing. If he is humble and receptive, a person in a position of authority will make further progress in the development of his character. He will attain insights and wisdom. He should continue developing his expanding awareness. Editor. The Wilhelm version of the Confucian commentary gives us a more accessible clue as to the meaning of this line. In order to receive what is real, the essential idea is that the ruler's receptivity to a higher power Openness to advice is the basic gestalt. Ears are receptive to messages, and handles suggest grasp or comprehension. Metal is often symbolic of the mental qualities, and yellow metal, rendered as gold in most translations of this line, suggests the highest form of mentality, wisdom, divine intelligence, cosmic truth, etc. Gold also often symbolizes intuition, the highest form of comprehension. A quote from A. Jaffe, Jaffe, in The Myth of Meaning. The attitude of the serious adept was genuinely religious, and the most important of the philosophical alchemists confessed in their writings that the religious side of their art was the focus of their interest and endeavors, above all their inner experiences during the opus. James de Corn breaks changing line 5 into one succinct definition. A. The images suggests an open receptivity to harmonious influences. Go to center and listen to your inner voice. And changing line 6. Leg. The sixth line dynamic shows the cauldron with rings of jade. There will be great good fortune, and all action taken will be in every way advantageous. Wilhelm Suchbane's The cauldron has rings of jade, great good fortune, nothing that would not act to further. Blofeld. The ting has jade handles, great good fortune, a further improvement on the progress indicated in the preceding note. Lu. The cauldron has carrying rings of jade, great good fortune, benefit in everything. Ritsumo/Karcher, the vessel, jade rings, the great significant, without not harvesting. Slofnessy, the cauldron's jade bar, greatly auspicious, there is nothing not beneficial. Clary 1, the cauldron has a jade handle, this is very auspicious, entirely beneficial. Clary 2, the jade handle of the cauldron is very auspicious, beneficial to all. Wu, the cauldron's carrying pole is decorated with jade, there will be great fortune and nothing disadvantageous. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. The rings of jade are at the very top. The dynamic and magnetic meet in their due proportions. Wilhelm/Baines. The jade rings in the highest place show the firm and the yielding complementing each other properly. Blofeld. The first part of the passage is indicated by this top line, a firm line which meets the yielding fifth harmoniously. Ritsumo/Karcher, solid and supple, articulating indeed. Clary 2, the jade handle is above, hard and soft join. Wu, the strong and the weak are balanced. Leg, line 6 is dynamic, but his strength is tempered by being in a magnetic place. It is this which makes the handle to be of jade, which, though very hard, has a peculiar and rich softness all its own. The auspice of the line is excellent. The great minister, line 6, performs the ruler, line 5, by helping his government and nourishing the worthy. This is the part that the handle does for the cauldron. Notes and paraphrases. Su. The sage imparts wise counsel to the benefit of the worthy recipient. His gentle and sincere behavior pleases the heavens, which dispense good fortune to all. Wing. There exists a general atmosphere of clarity and greatness. All circumstances are favorable. The inner self has reached a highly developed stage. Everyone will benefit. Editor. The top line of a hexagram often represents the sage or holy man. Here, the wisdom of the sage is offered to the ruler. Psychologically, the ego is receptive to instructions from its higher self. The Confucian commentary alludes to the proper union of dynamic and magnetic forces. This is the holy marriage of the perennial philosophy. The image suggests the Chinese concept of Li, the character for which combines the ideas of heaven's ordinances with that of a receptive vessel. A quote from D.H. Smith in Confucius: "The term Li signifies one of the most important concepts in Confucian ethics. The character is made up of two elements, one representing influence coming down from heaven, and the other representing a sacrificial vessel. Li came to include all the customary regulations and acknowledged practices which govern social relationships." James de Corn breaks changing line 6 down into two succinct definitions, A and B. A, one is receptive to the highest influence, and B, an image of the harmonious union of thought and feeling. Right and left hemisphere, maybe. Next, we will read from Liu Yiming's Taoist I Ching, which is highly alchemical in nature. He wrote it as a Taoist practitioner Taoist adept in 1796. Hexagram 50. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Our primary hexagram he calls the Cauldron. The Cauldron is basically good. It is developmental. Explanation: the Cauldron is a vessel for refining by heat, whereby something new is obtained. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is fire, luminous. Below is wind, penetrating, producing illumination through following an initiatory process. The mind becomes daily more humble, while illumination increases daily. In the body of the hexagram, in the second line, yang, and the fifth line, yin, emptiness and fullness correspond. Within illumination is the ability to be empty and open. Within obedience is the capacity for fulfillment. When empty and illumined, that enlightenment illumines all, and the mind cannot be moved by the vagaries of wealth and status. When fulfilled yet docile, all virtues are developed, and neither fortune nor calamity can disturb one's nature. Producing illumination by following an initiatory process, following the process by opening awareness, emptiness and fullness balance each other. It is like the light of a fire, increasing when it gets wood, like the unrefined energy of wood being all transformed when it meets fire. Because it has the meaning of refining heating, it is called the Cauldron. This hexagram represents refining the great medicine. It follows on the previous hexagram, the well. The well indicates following a process and passing through danger. Having gotten through danger, the true yang trapped by conditioning is released, and the great medicine is born. Then one can accordingly further illumination and operate the fire for refinement. The work of refinement is the means by which to sublimate earthly energy and stabilize celestial energy, causing the raw to ripen and the old to be renewed, whereby it is possible to illumine the mind and to solidify life. Consequently, the fact that we got in hexagram 50, the Cauldron, that was for the worthy. It said that was transformation for the worthy, and that the well was for everyone. And so here it's being used for all manner of good in both cases. The work of refinement is the means by which to sublimate earthly energy and stabilize celestial energy, causing the raw to ripen and the old to be renewed, whereby it is possible to illumine the mind and to solidify life. Therefore, the cauldron is basically good and it has a developmental path. The basis is the potential of everlasting life of goodness. The cooking of the great medicine in the cauldron is the firing of this living potential to make it incorruptible and permanent. But in this path, there is process and procedure. Even the slightest deviation and the gold elixir will not form. Therefore, people must first thoroughly investigate the true principle. In our supporting hexagram, 48, the well puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Because it's a direction of travel and you're starting with the cauldron, it's like first focus on the core community or collective, and then the direction of travel is to spread to the well, or like the common people, so to speak. The well, changing the village, not changing the well. No loss, no gain. Those who come and go use the well as a well. If the rope does not reach all the way into the well, or if the bucket breaks, that is unfortunate. Explanation. A well is water with a source, which nourishes people inexhaustibly. It has the meaning of nurturance, development. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is water, dangerous, and below is wind, penetrating. Gradually progressing so as to get through danger. Though there is danger, one can get out of it. As wood plunged in water emerges from the water, therefore this hexagram is called the well. This hexagram represents accumulation of effort to cultivate virtue. It follows on the previous hexagram, rising. Rising means harmonious progress and practice, a way to increase spiritual virtue. When spiritual virtue increases and one has accordingly advanced to the state where there is no difficulty or danger, the basis is firm and stable. Free from danger oneself, one can then resolve others' problems. With this, one accumulates achievement and cultivates virtue, using what one has developed oneself to nurture others' development. Genuine within, this genuineness reaches out, so there is benefit to others and no harm to self. This is like a well. Changing the village doesn't change the well. No loss, no gain. Passers-by use the well as a well. When the self-development of practitioners of Tao is sufficient, this is like a well having water in it. To develop others after having developed oneself is like changing the village. To develop others by one's own development is like not changing the well. Development of others must be based on self-development. As is self-development, so is development of others. This is like a well having no loss, no gain. Developing others by self-development, others and self are both nurtured. This is like those who come and go using the well as a well. If one insists on trying to teach people before one has attained the Tao oneself, this is called lacking the basis. Development without the basis lacks inward mastery. Arbitrarily used, it creates confusion, and without having helped anyone else, one first loses oneself. This is like trying to get water from a well, but the rope does not reach all the way, or the well water breaks the bucket. One brings misfortune on oneself. This is because the business of guiding others comes after the completion of the great path. When the path is completed, mind and body are autonomous. Based on previous realization to enlighten others, one can thus benefit others and not harm oneself. Therefore, the main theme in each of the 6 lines is self-development. Next, we'll read, let's do the commentary section of each of the hexagrams in the back here. And then we'll get to the changing lines. So, hexagram 50, the cauldron, again, in the commentary section. Sometimes it's a little more alchemical in nature. Fire above, wind below. There is fire on top of wood, a cauldron. Thus do superior people stabilize life in the proper position. The cauldron stands for the process of refinement by fire, Above is fire, below is wind. Associated with wood, there is fire on top of wood. Fire and wood in one place, refining things by heating, is the image of the cauldron. What superior people see in this is that just as a cauldron is a means of cooking things, but cannot accomplish this without the action of wood and fire, in the same way that Tao is the means of bearing life, but stabilization of life cannot be accomplished without the work of entry and understanding. Therefore, they gradually cultivate practice on the basis of the proper standpoint to stabilize their life. Proper means not being partial or biased, not being hypocritical or dishonest. The position or standpoint is the opening of the mysterious paths, the door of the earthly and the celestial. Stabilization means concentration without fragmentation. Life means the primordial generative energy. If one can make one's standpoint correct so that one's position is proper, one enters the Tao gradually and practices it with understanding. Benevolence, justice, courtesy, and knowledge root in the mind. Vitality, spirit, the earthly soul, and the celestial soul combine. The elements of vitality, energy, spirit, essence, and intent integrate. Energy becomes replete, the spirit becomes complete, and life is stabilized. The path of stabilizing life lies entirely in work in the right place. To be incapable of the proper position is to be ignorant of the mysterious paths. To be ignorant of the mysterious paths is to be ignorant of life. Being ignorant of life leads to attachment to voidness or clinging to forms, taking the false to be real, entering into the byways of auxiliary methods. Then, not only is one unable to stabilize life, one is even prone to injuring life. Life is the primordial sane energy. Life is what is correct. What is correct is life. The correct standpoint, the proper position, is carefully preserving the sane energy in the mysterious paths, maturing and refining it with both gentle and intense effort, working by day, cautious by night, not letting any external energy contaminate the cauldron and furnace, aiming to correct that which is not correct, aiming to stabilize that which is unstable, proceeding from effort to finally reach spontaneity, returning from confusion to order. The work of stabilizing life in its proper position is consummated. And our supporting hexagram 48, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 48, the well. There it is. Water above, wind below. There is water above wood, a well. Thus do superior people comfort the people and urge reciprocity. The well has the meaning of nourishing people. Above is water, below is wind, associated with wood. There is water above wood. When water rises above wood, the wood is moistened and becomes pliable, being nurtured by the water. This is the image of the well. What superior people see in this is that the people must be nourished, and when they are nourished, they must be educated. Therefore, they teach them to work so as to have plenty of food and warm clothing, so as to nourish their bodies and teach them to know courtesy and understand duty, to get along in harmony and help each other, so as to nourish their minds. When body and mind are both nourished, people return to pristine simplicity and purity, forget their travail, become unified, and enter the realm of unconscious obedience to the laws of God. The human body is the country, the human spirit is the people. To order the spirit and carry out the Tao day and night is to comfort the people, to take to good, correct faults, get rid of falsehood and keep truth. Combine vitality, energy, and spirit, and join the earthly to the celestial. This is urging reciprocity. This kind of comfort is that whereby one forgets falsehood. This kind of urging is that whereby one cultivates reality. When falsehood leaves and reality remains, the path of nourishment is consummated. Next, we'll look at the changing lines 4, 5, and 6, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. And line 6, beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. Hexagram 50, our primary hexagram, Cauldron, changing line 4. The cauldron's legs are broken, spilling the food received for service. The physical being is enriched, but there is misfortune. Explanation. On entering illumination by following the initiatory process, the gold elixir takes shape. This is when one should guard against danger, foreseeing peril, and use the spontaneous fire of reality to burn away acquired mundanity. If at this point strength is dragged by weakness, the legs of the cauldron will break. Rousing the human mentality injures the mind of Tao. This is like spilling the food received for service. The jewel of life is again lost. After having been gained, even though the physical being remains, the spirit is lost. That misfortune is unspeakable. This represents arousing the human mind and obscuring the mind of Tao. Changing line 5. The cauldron has yellow hooks with a gold handle. It is beneficial to be single-minded. Explanation. When flexible receptivity is correctly balanced, emptying the human mind and causing the mind of Tao, this is like the cauldron having yellow hooks and a gold handle. Yellow symbolizes the center, and yellow hooks means the centers of the hooks are hollow. Gold handle means the handle of the cauldron is solid. The handle of the cauldron is passed through the hooks. Strength and flexibility balance each other. Emptiness and fullness correspond. The fire is the medicine. The medicine is the fire. At this point, it is beneficial to be single-minded with undivided attention, forestalling problems, not necessitating excessive augmentation or diminution. This represents emptying the human mind and nurturing the mind of Tao. And changing line 6. The cauldron has a jade handle. This is very auspicious, entirely beneficial. Explanation. In the end of use of the cauldron, when the work of renewal in the cauldron is finished, neither being nor non-being remains. Things and self revert to emptiness. In stillness, one is uncontrived. In action, one is spontaneous. Strength is flexible. Flexibility is strong. Without applying strength, strength is complete. Without applying awareness, awareness is penetrating. One has reached the stage of complete sincerity, in which foreknowledge is possible. This is like a jade handle on a cauldron. It is a handle, yet it is pure jade. Firmness and softness are as one. The temperament and constitution are transformed. Body and mind are both refined, merging in reality with the Tao. This is the ultimate achievement of practice of the Tao, the complete ability of sages. Transcending yin and yang, one is not constrained by yin and yang. Therefore, it is very auspicious, entirely beneficial. This is the complete integration and assimilation of the mind of Tao and the human mind. In working on the cauldron, there's firmness and softness, advancing and withdrawing, adding and subtracting, unless you reach the stage where being and non-being do not stand, and spiritual creativity is incalculable. You cannot be said to have reached the ultimate achievement. If you do not know the methods of firmness and softness, advancing and withdrawing, adding and subtracting, then you will either fall into the removal of the cauldron's hooks of line 3 or the spilling of the food of line 4. The slightest deviation produces a tremendous loss. Therefore, practitioners of the Tao should promote illumination slowly, according to the initiatory process, carefully watching over the fire. Next, we'll look at Browne Walker's I Ching or the Book of Changes. Our primary hexagram 50. Keep clicking this thing. Don't do it. 50. Ting, or the Cauldron. You serve as an example to others by sacrificing your ego and accepting the guidance of the higher power. The hexagram Ting concerns the nourishment and guidance one must have in order to fully succeed. While the culture around us often encourages us to take charge and make aggressive demands on life, the I Ching offers far wiser counsel. Here we are encouraged to give up the incessant demands of our ego, to deepen our humility and acceptance, and to listen carefully to the instructions of the sage. The image of the cauldron concerns your inner thoughts. Whatever you hold in the cauldron of your mind is your offering to the higher power. The quality of assistance you can receive from the universe is governed by the quality of your offering. If you constantly indulge in the concerns of the ego, fears, desires, strategies to control, harshness towards others, you repel the higher power and block your own nourishment. If, on the other hand, you consciously let go of your resistance to life and hold quiet and correct thoughts, you become receptive to the creative, and your continual nourishment is assured. Makes me think of seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things will be added to you. Right? Ting comes to suggest that the wisest thing that you can do now is to still your ego and conscientiously enter into a conversation with the sage. To influence others or to achieve a proper goal, follow the same path. By cultivating humility and acceptance, purifying your inner thoughts, and concentrating on that which is good and innocent and true, you summon the power of the creative and meet with good fortune in the outer world. And our supporting hexagram 48, the well, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Ching, or the well. Return to the well of goodness. No community can survive without a dependable source of pure water. In a similar way, human beings cannot survive without a reliable source of spiritual nourishment. In fact, we need two wells, an external source of guidance, such as the I Ching, and an internal source of guidance, which must be our own good character. This hexagram comes to encourage you to concentrate on developing, purifying, and utilizing your two wells. Notice the name of the hexagram, Ching, the well. The I Ching has survived in countless civilizations for thousands of years for a simple reason. It is an inexhaustible source of spiritual nourishment. It provides us with the fundamental building blocks of a successful life. If you approach it sincerely, without mistrust or frivolity, it will guide you through every difficult hour with unimpeachable wisdom. If you muddy the well, however, by doubting the I Ching or by placing your ego desires above the counsel it gives you, you impede your own progress. The purest of external wells, the I Ching is also an invaluable aid in developing and cleansing the internal well of your own good character. It will, if you are sincere, reveal to you the fundamental issues of your life, and it will instill in you the values necessary to successfully negotiate those issues. The hexagram Ching or Jing comes to encourage you not to muddy the well of your good character in any way now. In relating to others, look beyond any external faults or muddiness and acknowledge the clear well that exists somewhere inside them. No person is without this, and by speaking to it, you strengthen it. If you will follow these counsels, you will meet with a true and lasting success in life. Next, we will look at the changing lines, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself, that take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 4 has the general context, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Line 5, strength and self-determination, clear vision, being in command. And line 6, beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. Hexagram 50, Cauldron, changing line 4. The Cauldron, or Ting, changing line 4. A position of influence is a position of responsibility. Neglecting your character now invites a humiliation. Line 5. One who remains modest and open, and who retreats from what is inferior whenever it appears, will have help in times of difficulty. And changing line 6. Counsel others as the sage counsels you, through making an example of correctness, through quiet perseverance, and through gentleness. Next, we will get our secret hexagram by looking at the second, third, and fourth lines of our primary hexagram for the bottom trigram and the third, fourth, and fifth lines of our supporting hexagram for the top trigram. So it'll be solid, 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 and then it'll be solid, broken, solid. So that's Qian, heaven, beneath, Li, fire and light. Which is hexagram 14. Hexagram 14 in Louis Ming's Taoist I Ching is great possession. The secret hexagram is like the hidden influence behind the situation. It's like the bottom of the deck energy. Great possession says mutual enhancement of strength and lucidity, continuous renewal, inward discipline. Wow. Great possession. Kind of want to just read it out of this one because it's so alchemical, but we'll start a little bit more humbly, but still quite meaningful, with Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. Hexagram 14, the secret hexagram, which is the hidden influence behind the entire situation. It's like bottom of the deck energy, if you're a tarot reader. I'm sure you hear it all the time, or maybe have said it yourself. Hexagram 14, Great Possession. Key questions. Given all you have, who will you be? How can you affirm and support what is good? Oracle, Great Possession, from the source, creating success. Great possession means you are rich, maybe in material goods, maybe in less tangible assets, like knowledge, wisdom, power, energy, talent, or relationships. Whatever form it takes, you have something real and potent in your possession. The Chinese word for possession also means there is. So this is great being as well as great having. What there is and what you are, as well as what you have. The ancient form of the character shows an outstretched hand, which may hold an offering. To possess is to offer. What you have is, by definition, what you can give. And what you have and can give is great. This is pure potential, an opening to the source and a promise of abundant energy ready to enter into circulation and become creatively active. There's a goddess right here flying around. It's probably the lady of the seven heavens, or the lady of the river, or something. I can't remember what her name was. Image. Fire dwells above heaven, great possession. A noble one ends hatred and spreads the good. She yields to heaven and rests in her mandate. The stars move in their courses in accordance with natural law. A noble one has an inner awareness of creative reality and carries this through into insight and clarity in living. The greatness of the cosmos is that it works as it should, and so her task is quite simple: to allow it to be, remove obstacles, and work with it. Hatred would only waste energy resisting reality. Spreading the good aligns with the natural order. The sun does not struggle to rise in the sky, it just rises. In the same way, because a noble one assents to what is and yields to heaven, she can rest in her work. Sequence. Great possession follows from Hexagram 13, People in Harmony. Reaching out to people in harmony means beings truly return home, and so great possession follows. With harmony, beings come into their right places. True relationships form, and a flow of exchange, of having and giving, is set in motion. Exchange is wealth, and so great possession follows. The emergent power of relationship, always greater than the sum of its parts. Next, we will look at, let's do Benabel Wen. Here, the shamanic flavor to the recipe. Hexagram 14 is our secret hexagram again, which is the hidden influence behind the situation. Bottom of the deck energy if you're a tarot reader. Hexagram 14, Da Yu, accolades, the oracle. Heaven bestows great blessings when you are aligned with the will of the divine. This is an omen of great validation. What you have been intuiting is true and correct. What you seek to undertake is a worthy endeavor that will yield success and prosperity. Heaven supports your expansion. And yet, stay modest and heed the true lesson of this message. Those blessed with abundance should not allow themselves to feel full. The divine flame illuminates the heavens, the bestowing of great accolades and praise. The sage neutralizes malevolence with benevolence. A great destiny awaits. Align yourself with heaven's will. This hexagram bodes supreme success and wealth. Many blessings bestowed. A great harvest. And just 'cause I wanna do James Corn's Gnostic Book of Changes. Just kind of like get into this. This is hexagram 14, again, our secret hexagram, which is the hidden influence behind the situation. Wealth. Other titles might be possession in great measure, the symbol of great possession, sovereignty, great having, great possessing, the great possessor, great wealth, abundance, having what is great. Quote from D.F. Hook, often means things other than material possessions or achievement. Count your blessings, for they are many. Judgment. Leg. Wealth means great progress and success. Wilhelm/Bain's possession in great measure, supreme success. Blowfold. He who possesses much, supreme success. Ritzema/Karcher. Great possessing, spring growing. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of your relation to an overriding concern or central idea. It emphasizes that organizing all your efforts around this idea is the adequate way to handle it. Slofnacy, the great possession, prime receipt. Said be single-minded, I think, in one of the others. Cleary 1, in great possession are creation and development. Cleary 2, great possession is great success. Woo, great wealth is primordial and pervasive. The image. Leg. Fire over heaven, the image of wealth. The superior man represses evil and nurtures virtue in accordance with the benevolent will of heaven. Wilhelm/Bain's fire in heaven above, the image of possession in great measure. Athwarted. Thus the superior man curbs evil and furthers good, other than in his no longer boxered pants, sitting commando style, farting in his jeans. Thus the superior man curbs evil and furthers good, and thereby obeys the benevolent will of heaven. Blowfold. This hexagram symbolizes fire in the heavens. When the trigram for heaven is above, whatever is below may be separated from it. When it is below, it indicates fusion or intermixture with what is above. The significance here is that the splendor of a very great man lights up the heavens. The superior man suppresses those who are evil and upholds the virtuous. Most gladly he accords with heaven and carries out its commands. Lu. Fire over heaven symbolizes great possessions. The superior man suppresses evil and honors virtue, and thus follows the will of heaven and waits upon destiny. Ritzema/Karcher, fire located above heaven, great possessing. A Chunsu, or chief son or superior person, uses terminating hate to display improvement. A Chunsu uses yielding to heaven to relinquish fate. Cleary 1, fire is in the sky, great possession. Thus does the superior person stop evil and promote good, obeying heaven and accepting its order. Cleary 2, leaders obey nature and accept its order by stopping the bad and promoting the good. Woo, fire above and heaven below form great wealth. Thus the Chunsi, or chief son or superior person, suppresses the evil and promotes the good. He abides by the will of heaven to enrich his life. Commentary. Confucius/Leg, wealth shows the magnetic line in the central ruler's place and honored by the dynamic lines above and below. The figure is composed of the trigrams of strength and clarity. The central line of clarity responds to the central line of strength, eventuating in timely action. This indicates great progress and success. Leg. Wealth means great havings and symbolizes a kingdom, family, or individual in a state of prosperity. The danger in such a position arises from the pride it is likely to engender. Here, however, everything is against that. The place of honor is occupied by a magnetic line so that the ruler will be humble, and all the dynamic lines will respond to her with sympathetic allegiance. The ruler's seat is in the central position of the trigram of clarity, and hence her strength is directed by intelligence, and all her actions are timely, like the seasons of heaven. Fire above the sky shines far, symbolizing the vastness of the territory of wealth. To develop virtue and repress evil is in accordance with the will of heaven, which has given to all men a nature fitted for goodness. Cleary 2, all states of being have this essence inherent in them and are indeed made of this essence, but all states other than that of complete enlightenment are out of harmony with this essence in some way. Buddhahood is when you accord with this essence. Woo. As the sun shines brightly high in the sky, both the good and the bad will be exposed. The responsibility of the Chunsi, or chief son or superior person, is to discriminate between them. He acts in accordance with the nature of goodness, the will of heaven, to enrich his life. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. The greatest kind of wealth accrues from furthering the work. The superior man manages his forces in accordance with the goals of the work. Wealth is the inverse of the preceding figure, union of forces. If the 13th hexagram depicts a process of uniting, the 14th might be seen as the completion of that process. To have one's inner forces correctly united is indeed possession in great measure, which is the title that Wilhelm gives to this figure. It is emphasized in the image that this wealth must be administered in accordance with the benevolent will of heaven, which is to say, the principles of the work must always guide one's choices if one is not to lose equilibrium and become pauperized by illusion. A quote from Chao Tun E. The superior man considers a rich possession of moral principles to be honor, and peace in his person to be wealth. And then last, well, I guess not last, because we'll do Browne Walker as well. We're going to read from Louis Ming's Gnostic Book of Changes. Secret hexagram, hidden influence behind the situation, great possession. In great possession are creation and development. Explanation. Great possession means greatness of possession. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is fire, luminous, and below is heaven, strong, acting strongly with lucidity, producing understanding in the midst of strength, growing increasingly illumined as strength increases, growing increasingly strong as illumination increases. It is therefore called great possession. This hexagram represents wealth with daily renewal, governing the inward with strictness. It follows on the previous hexagram, obstruction. In obstruction, yin energy acts while yang energy retires. One accepts the false and loses the real, obstructing the openness of consciousness, becoming darker and darker daily until the original celestial virtues are completely gone. If you want to restore celestial qualities, producing something where there is nothing, it cannot be done but for the path of strength and illumination. What is strength? It is the moment of pure truth, adamantly strong and unbending. What is illumination? It is illumining myriad things with open consciousness undimmed. If one can be strong, the mind is firm and the will far-reaching, cultivating every appropriate path and establishing every virtue, having such wealth in abundance. If one can be lucid, one can discern principles clearly and thoroughly, seeing surely with real knowledge, taking to whatever is good, reforming every fault, being daily renewed. Once one is strong and lucid, one has inner autonomy and cannot be moved by anything. This is real, true practice. It is like the sun being in the sky, its light shining on everything, covering everything. Nothing can deceive it. Yellow sprouts cover the earth. Golden flowers bloom throughout the world. Wherever one may walk, everywhere is the Tao. With the greatness of possession and the far range of action, nothing started fails to develop. And the commentary section of Hexagram 14 in Louis Ming's Taoist teaching. Great possession. Fire above, heaven below. Fire is in the sky, great possession. Thus does the superior person stop evil and promote good, obeying heaven and accepting its order. Great possession means greatness of possession. Above is fire, below is heaven. This is fire in the sky. When the sun is in the sky, much is produced. The sun shines afar. Everything is under the sun in the sky. This is the image of great possession. What superior people see in this is that the nature of celestial order is one integral principle in which all that is good is ultimately assembled. This is basic great possession. But because of mixture with temporal conditioning, once cognitive consciousness comes into play, the primordial is damaged. From this point on, good and bad mix. Those with great possession come to have little possession, and those with little possession come to have nothing. Therefore, as soon as a bad thought arises, superior people immediately stop it, and as soon as a good thought arises, they promote it, obeying heaven and finding happiness in its order. If one cannot find happiness in the celestial order, it is because of not being able to obey heaven. Not obeying heaven is due to not being able to stop evil and promote good. If one can stop evil and promote good, eventually one will reach ultimate good without evil. With true sanity always present, one returns to the pristine state of completeness, which is the order of heaven. Then one goes from destitution to possession, from possession to greatness. Human life in the world has a mission, which alone is important. With this direction, there is life. Without it, there is death. If one cannot find happiness in this mission, this direction, this order, everything else is empty and false. That to which heaven directs humanity is only good. If one can find happiness in that command, then this is obeying heaven. Obeying heaven is the way to obey the command. Finding happiness in the celestial mandate is the way to find happiness in heaven. Having the direction of heaven is the greatest of possessions, but having the direction of heaven lies entirely in stopping evil and promoting good. Stopping evil and promoting good is illumination. Obeying heaven and finding happiness in its order is strength. Strength is the substance. Illumination is the function. Open awareness, unobscured, embraces myriad principles and responds to myriad things. Through clarification of the quality of illumination, one eventually reaches ultimate good. Wholly integrated with the celestial design, nature and life stabilized. No possession is more substantial than this. No greatness is greater than this. No external possessions in the world can compare with it. Next, Browne Walker. And then we will get a randomly drawn chapter from the Tao Te Ching while we sum up the reading. Hexagram 14, Ta Yu, possession in great measure. Those who are steadfastly balanced, humble, and in harmony with the sage inherit everything under the sun. This is a time of great power and clarity for you. By conscientiously following the path of proper principles, you have come into partnership with the higher power and enjoy the influence of the creative everywhere in your life. If you remain modest, we got the creative in our last reading. In fact, we got a creative sandwich. It's actually a sameness with people sandwich with the creative as the primary hexagram and the secret hexagram with sameness with people in the center. So it's like everyone was center inside of heaven or the creative. By conscientiously following the path of proper principles, you have come into partnership with the higher power and enjoy the influence of the creative everywhere in your life. If you remain modest and balanced now, you will come into possession of prosperity and success. The I Ching indicates here that you increased your personal power by purifying your thoughts, actions, and attitudes. When you have done this long enough so that service of the true and good becomes your only goal in life, you come into complete harmony with the universe. As a result, you begin to have a far-reaching influence, shining on others as the sun shines on everything under the heavens. Because your power is so great, it is especially important to maintain correct attitudes and behavior now. Having attained a high position, you are wise to remain modest and generous toward others. Remember that it is the higher power who gives you your strength. Do not make the mistake of becoming proud, disdainful of others, or convinced of your ability to control events. By leaving the sage in charge, withdrawing from all inferior influences, and promoting the good wherever possible, you remain gracefully balanced and in harmony with the universe. Your peace of mind becomes permanent, and in this way you come into possession of success and prosperity. All right. Now we will get a randomly drawn chapter or chapters from the Tao Te Ching while we sum up the reading. We got our primary hexagram of the Cauldron and supporting hexagram of the Well. And they're very similar, except that the Cauldron sounds like it's used to advance the worthy, and the Well is for the nourishment of all. And the interesting thing about how the hexagram went, or the reading went, is that the supporting hexagram is the wider influence, direction of travel, underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. And so direction of travel means that we're moving from the Cauldron, which is a nourishment for the worthy, into that Well section. And the interesting thing about the Well is that Carl Jung, in his introduction to Wilhelm's English translation of the I Ching, he before he wrote that, he questioned the I Ching if he should, what it thought, or the Oracle thought of the I Ching, him helping to do that. And it answered with the primary hexagram of the Well. And basically it was a nourishment for all. It even, in fact, the word for the Well in Chinese is Ching, C-H-I-N-G. And so I Ching, it's essentially that. They obviously correlate. And so the I Ching can be a nourishment for all, but like the saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so those that take advantage of something such as the I Ching in a time where something such as the I Ching is definitely needed and could do a lot of good in the wider world, those who take advantage, I would consider to be in the category of the Cauldron, where they're using the transmutative power, transmutational power of the process to their advantage and working with it. And those that don't just are, eventually it will spread to all, is the idea here. But I mean, you can kind of get ahead of the curve by taking advantage of something that potent. And believe me, it is potent. Then with the changing lines, it was interesting because the first meant that the feet fell off the Cauldron. The 3 feet fell out from under the Cauldron. There was 9 cauldrons that they used to show divine, somebody, the divine looking down with approval on whoever owned these 9 cauldrons at one point, and it passed from the Shang to the Zhao to the Shang to the Zhao again, and then they were lost. And I forgot what the theory was. It was in Benabel Wins. Maybe it's important that I read that since it's coming up. So what she said about it was that in Hexagram 50, the 9 cauldrons represented the mandate of heaven and were an insignia of imperial authority. Cauldrons, okay, yeah. And then hexagrams 49 and 50, whereas the theme of hexagram 49 was descent and a reform to or revolution of a systematic social order, hexagram 50 expresses the events after the regime change. Hexagram 50 is restoration and reconstruction of what the descent had destroyed. This is a developmental phase and the building of new foundations. Establishing a new order after dismantling an old one is much harder than the dismantling process of revolution itself. Thus, after revolution, the hard part begins, having to design and build a new structure that will be better than what pre-existed. Getting back to the development of the changing lines. The fourth changing line had the feet falling off the cauldron and the Duke getting his clothes soiled. And basically it was just complete shame and embarrassment. And it was that, like, at the height of the pinnacle of the alchemical work, basically ego took over and spoiled the Tao, because to the extent that the ego or the human mentality is in charge of affairs, to that same extent the Tao, the mind of Tao, is not. And so it was like being right at the stage of completion and integration and like the work being accomplished, and the fucking cauldron spilled all of its contents out of this alchemical work. And so it was just horrible, like really one of the worst things. It didn't necessarily indicate blame. It could be from a whole multitude of things, like the influence and just all kinds of situations. I do know in my own personal life, at the time of trying to go from the last hexagram to this one, or last reading to this one, there was a lot of ego pride shit that came out of me. And so I see that. Thankfully, though, in hexagrams changing lines 5 and 6, 5 had golden hand chains or something, and it indicated like incredible auspiciousness. Let me read. I should probably focus on these a little bit more than I am just blasting through this really quickly, because they are the most important focused point of the reading. Take precedence over all other elements. 5th line, yellow handles on the cauldron, gold chains attached, auspicious omen. The 5th line represents a golden age. The times ahead are those of peace and stability. There are thriving arts and culture and a flourishing civilization. This can be credited to a wise and beneficent ruler occupying this 5th line. The yellow color calls to mind the Yellow Emperor, the Yellow Dragon, and the Yellow River Valley civilizations. Yellow corresponds with Earth in the Wu Jing cycle, where the qi of yin and yang are balanced and symbolic of the center. Thus, as an omen, seeing yellow here is an affirmation that you are in the right and that you have heaven's blessing. Yellow is also the color of neutrality, so to hold on to heaven's blessing, cultivate neutrality and objectivity. Never be prejudiced toward any one side. Have the beneficence and virtue to feel compassion for all. The 5th line portends success in work or career matters, professional advancements, glory and promotions, and it affirms one whose competency inspires trust from others. The final message of the 5th line is to remain humble. Every figure of authority will answer to a higher power of authority. As applicable, when the 5th line comes up and you have to make a judgment, follow past precedent. The narrative here is of a humble king who has the wisdom to consider how past great kings ruled and to emulate their ways. Thus, as applied here, rather than diverging from precedent, honor it. Xuan, referenced in both the 5th and 6th lines, has been translated as chains, though it can also be rings or a rod. The reference is to the device used for carrying cauldrons. In both instances, that the Xuan is present means the cauldron is being prepared for transport. And changing line 6. Jade represents... Jade chains on the cauldron, great fortune and favors, no losses sustained. Jade represents spiritual cultivation. You are virtuous, sincere, wise, and one that the leader trusts, though you yourself are not the head. If the 5th line with the references to yellow and gold were about the sovereign or career success, The 6th line is more internal. This is about spiritual advancement. Jade was believed to improve health, bring longevity, and protect souls from evil. Taoist alchemists associated jade with immortality, an auspicious omen. The inner self has reached a highly developed stage. The endeavor ends well for you. And I did want to point out that in James de Corn, in each of the lines, 4, 5, and then 6, there was a development that took place. And I'll just focus on those to get through quickly. But on 4, if it was this. Yeah, here we go. In 4, in Blowfold, it says, through gross carelessness, an opportunity to advance our interests is not only lost, but transformed into an occasion of trouble. And then in line 5, Blowfold says, the faults described in the last 2 notes have now been put right. The position is even better than before they were committed. And then in changing line 6, Blowfold says, a further improvement on the progress indicated in the preceding note. So there was like a moving to a better and better situation from the first changing line 4 all the way through to the 6th. So that was incredible. And then let's just read Browne Walker's take on our secret hexagram, which was the hidden influence behind the situation. Hexagram 14, Great Possession, or I think, what did he call it? Possession in great measure, Ta Yu. Those who are steadfastly balanced, humble, and in harmony with the sage inherit everything under the sun. This is a time of great power and clarity for you. By conscientiously following the path of proper principles, you have come into partnership with the higher power and enjoy the influence of the creative everywhere in your life. If you remain modest and balanced now, you will come into possession of prosperity and success. The I Ching indicates here that you increased your personal power by purifying your thoughts, actions, and attitudes. When you have done this long enough so that service of the true and good becomes your only goal in life, you come into complete harmony with the universe. As a result, you begin to have a far-reaching influence, shining on others as the sun shines on everything under the heavens. Because your power is so great, it is especially important to maintain correct attitudes and behavior now. Having attained a high position, you are wise to remain modest and generous toward others. Remember that it is the higher power who gives you your strength. Do not make the mistake of becoming proud, disdainful of others, or convinced of your ability to control events. By leaving the sage in charge, withdrawing from all inferior influences, and promoting the good wherever possible, you remain gracefully balanced and in harmony with the universe. Your peace of mind becomes permanent, and in this way you come into possession of success and prosperity. And I did want to note, in Liu Yiming's Taoist I Ching, I'll put these things over here. I want to talk about the changing lines, I think, most of all. Yeah, let's do it. This part's incredible. Changing line 4, we're going to read all the changing lines that we got. The cauldron's legs are broken, spilling the food received for service. The physical being is enriched, but there is misfortune. Explanation. On entering illumination by following the initiatory process, the gold elixir takes shape. This is when one should guard against danger, foreseeing peril, and use the spontaneous fire of reality to burn away acquired mundanity. If at this point strength is dragged by weakness, the legs of the cauldron will break. Rousing the human mentality injures the mind of Tao. This is like spilling the food received for service. The jewel of life is again lost, after having been gained. Even though the physical being remains, the spirit is lost. That misfortune is unspeakable. This represents arousing the human mind and obscuring the mind of Tao. And then changing line 5. The cauldron has yellow hooks with a gold handle. It is beneficial to be single-minded. Explanation. When flexible receptivity is correctly balanced, emptying the human mind and using the mind of Tao, this is like the cauldron having yellow hooks and a gold handle. Yellow symbolizes the center, and yellow hooks means the centers of the hooks are hollow. Gold handle means the handle of the cauldron is solid. The handle of the cauldron is passed through the hooks. Strength and flexibility balance each other. Emptiness and fullness correspond. The fire is the medicine. The medicine is the fire. At this point, it is beneficial to be single-minded with undivided attention, forestalling problems, not necessitating excessive augmentation or diminution. This represents emptying the human mind and nurturing the mind of Tao. And then changing line 6. The cauldron has a jade handle. This is very auspicious, entirely beneficial. Explanation. In the end of use of the cauldron, when the work of renewal in the cauldron is finished, neither being nor non-being remains. Things and self revert to emptiness. In stillness, one is uncontrived. In action, one is spontaneous. Strength is flexible. Flexibility is strong. Without applying strength, strength is complete. Without applying awareness, awareness is penetrating. One has reached the stage of complete sincerity, in which foreknowledge is possible. This is like a jade handle on a cauldron. It is a handle, yet is pure jade. Firmness and softness are as one. The temperament and constitution are transformed. Body and mind are both refined. Merging in reality with the Tao, this is the ultimate achievement of practice of the Tao. The complete ability of sages. Transcending yin and yang, one is not constrained by yin and yang. Therefore, it is very auspicious, entirely beneficial. This is the complete integration and assimilation of the mind of Tao and the human mind. In working on the cauldron, there is firmness and softness, advancing and withdrawing, adding and subtracting. Unless you reach the stage where being and non-being do not stand, the spiritual creativity is incalculable. You cannot be said to have reached the ultimate achievement. If you do not know the methods of firmness and softness, advancing and withdrawing, adding and subtracting, then you will either fall into the removal of the cauldron's hooks of line 3 or the spilling of the food of line 4. The slightest deviation produces a tremendous loss. Therefore, practitioners of the Tao should promote illumination slowly, according to the initiatory process, carefully watching over the firing. We have been going for a while in a series of readings into a culminating type moment, and this is the height of it, in that what especially Louis Ming talks about of the work here is that it's the height of that. If you didn't listen to the Louis Ming section, I would go back and listen to it. I would read all of it here now, but I got to wrap it up. So yeah, I think the interest right now is on being firm and correct, but also flexible and strong yet flexible, and also in benevolence in order to dissolve malevolence, and that at such a time, if we were to do the same thing as what happened in changing line 4, of turn and rely on the human mentality, then what do they say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That would be the situation there, that we're past that. And the idea is also that in the primary hexagram that there's a focus on kind of like a core group of those that can be trusted, or the noble, or what it would call, I think it's called the wise, or the initiates, you might say. That there's nurturance for them as the primary hexagram. And then it can also be a nurturance to those outside, but the primary focus would be on that, kind of like keeping, things sealed so the process can work inside of the cauldron, that sealed compartment. And the point is that this is something that eventually will culminate in a great possession, yes, of our secret hexagram, which is the hidden influence behind the situation, but even more than that, a grand transformation that takes place and just spills out. At the depth that this is now, and this striking right to the core, even talking about what Carl Jung said the I Ching was, when he asked it if he should introduce it to the English-speaking world, and it answered with hexagram 48, the well. That well is something that is available, and if people desire to be nourished, it is readily available. It says you can move the village, but you can't move the well. So if you move your village, you'll have to dig a new well, right? And what you're doing is just getting down to that unconscious, or, an area where the I Ching works in, like that space where those that took the time in the kind of like bodhisattva-like style, or sage meditative and development of this, like almost like spiritual science that's so incredibly mathematical and just built on ones and zeros, you might say. So it's like an operating system that you can use to delve into those depths and come back with something worthwhile. And at any time, going through the changes, that's what it's called, is the Book of Changes. It deals in those spaces and allows you to be able to find what you need to do in any given situation that the sage might do in that same one, even if it's a bad situation and you're in a tight spot, or you just fucked up by being incredibly egoic, or what have you. There's always room for advancement, no matter what the situation is. Chapter 50 of the Tao Te Ching. Starting out with Benjamin Hoff. One in 10. From coming forth at birth to entering the ground at death, the foot soldiers of life are 3 in 10. The foot soldiers of death are 3 in 10. The lives of those who move to a death place are also 3 in 10. As for these last 3 in 10, for what reason do they move to a death place? It is because they live lives that grow too rich and sheltered. As for the 1 in 10, I have heard that those who are good at nurturing life can walk the land without meeting a wild yak or tiger, can enter battle without armored covering or weapons. With them, a yak has no place to thrust its horns, a tiger no place to put its claws, a weapon no place to sink its blade. What is the reason for that? Such people survive because they have no death place. Jia Fu Fang and Jane English's translation. Chapter 50 of the Tao Te Ching. Between birth and death, 3 in 10 are followers of life. 3 and 10 are followers of death, and men just passing from birth to death also number 3 and 10. Why is this so? Because they live their lives on the gross level. He who knows how to live can walk abroad without fear of rhinoceros or tiger. He will not be wounded in battle, for in him rhinoceroses can find no place to thrust their horn, tigers no place to use their claws, and weapons no place to pierce. Why is this so? Because he has no place for death to enter. By John C.H. Wu, Tao Te Ching. When one is out of life, one is in death. The companions of life are 13. The companions of death are 13. And when a living person moves into the realm of death, his companions are also 13. How is this? Because he draws upon the resources of life too heavily. It is said that he who knows well how to live meets no tigers or wild buffaloes on his road and comes out from the battleground untouched by the weapons of war. For in him, a buffalo would find no butt for his horns, a tiger nothing to lay his claws upon, and a weapon of war no place to admit its point. How is this? Because there is no room for death in him. Nothingness and Zero. A postmodern approach to Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching by Jeremy M. Miller. Thank you, Core. Black Raven Meditation or Metaphysics. 50. So special. When there is nothing to gain, there is nothing to lose. The secret: nothing is something. Special and indefinable. Get this one that I'm looking for. Aha, there you are. Holly. I'm going to show you something. This is a birch hollowed out little gourd looking thing. I showed you, it's even in the picture of one of the last I Ching readings, a red one that was sent to me on accident that was made out of birch, but it was stained. I couldn't keep that last one, but I got one made for me, and it's even better than that one. I'll leave this guy's Etsy store on link in the description box below, but birch is for community. It's like a vessel, cauldron, or a well in which what holds the flow and the nourishment is the community itself.